Thank you all so much for joining me today. My name is Dustin Guinee. I am the founder of Open Minds, Open Hearts, and this is our very first online session today. And our theme is acknowledging our fears and cultivating courage. And I couldn't think of a more appropriate time for us to meditate on this. There's been a lot going on. When I first started this, I was thinking it would be to help us kind of navigate the effects of coronavirus. And then, the George Floyd killing and the protests and the riots ensued. And it just became even more evident to me how essential meditation and mindfulness practices truly are for us to find not just the inner calm and peace, which we expect from meditation, but really to look at and examine with loving tenderness the suffering that we're experiencing. And so I hope that this session today provides you with some of those tools. A little bit about myself. So I went on this journey about 4 years ago, 2016. I had my first daughter, and I realized I needed to elevate my game. That same year, Trump got elected, and my wife and I knew that we would need to prepare ourselves for what was to come. And it surely has been manifesting itself. From there, I did a training with Michael Bernard Beckwith, the founder of Agape Church, in which I learned various meditation techniques. And I had a very profound meditation in that session in which the universe was calling me to a path of healing and service. And, for a tech researcher, I didn't know what to do with that at the time. So I kind of molded over, and about 2 years later, I discovered a book called Bliss More by Light Watkins. And that book was really transformative because Light, he made meditation so approachable. You don't need to sit in lotus position. You don't need to meditate 40 minutes a day. You can commit to 1 minute a day and still start to see the effects of it. And so from there, that's when I started my daily practice about 2 years ago, and been very consistent with it ever since, because I've noticed when I do this in the mornings, every morning, about 10 minutes every morning, it really just changes my entire day. It has profoundly transformed my life. And that is why I'm here with you now. And that is why I'm launching these sessions, the first and third Wednesdays of every month. So I'm actually in an accreditation program now to become a mindfulness trainer, but I'm no guru, I'm no master, I'm a student like you. So I appreciate you being here and allowing me to guide you on this journey. This is a free session, but if you'd like to make a donation, I have my Venmo and PayPal info in my emails, and I'll send another email after our session with the recording link and more information. So with that, I wanted to share some thoughts with you before we meditate. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to share a few thoughts and a few practices in and around mindfulness and meditation. Acknowledging our fears and cultivating courage. It's so important for the time in which we live. But I also would like to discern the difference between creating a safe place, which this is certainly a safe place for you here, and the difference between that and the comfort zone, which is often, the comfort zone is often the walls that we create to protect ourselves based off of previous programming that we've gotten either through our parents, through our experience. But the comfort zone is often, it's a limiting, fear-based approach and mentality that I would like to invite you to question particularly in this session and moving forward. You know, as we start to examine our fear in the meditation we're about to do, you know, it's not easy and it's not always fun, but there is a powerful, transformative, healing power in bringing loving awareness to our suffering and ultimately nurturing that suffering and bringing the light of awareness to it. So I'm going to do, we're going to do open intention. We're going to read some inspired writings. We're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness and the effects on the body and brain. We'll do our meditation for about 10 minutes, and then we'll have some Q&A, open communication at the end. All right, so intention setting. This is another tool that if you haven't done it before, it's very powerful. You know, the difference between intentions and goals are very performance and outcome based, very measurement based. Intentions are more principle and value based, right? It's more about a state of being as opposed to what you want to accomplish, right? It's connecting the head and the heart. Some intentions for this session could be, my intention is to be open and honest with myself. My intention is to acknowledge my fears without judgment. My intention is to be more fully present in each moment. So I'd like to just give you a quick minute to reflect upon your intentions for this session. Your intentions for acknowledging fear without judgment. Your intention for this session and your intention for this mindfulness practice today, tomorrow, moving forward. So I hope you have something that has come to mind and heart. So I wanted to provide a little inspiration as we contemplate acknowledging our fears, cultivating courage. So Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose, our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And that's particularly powerful considering Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor in which he survived the death camps with this power to respond to his oppressors. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that discerning between what we can change and what we can't change, and what's in our circle of influence and our circle of concern. That's what we want to explore. Courage is the most important of all virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. Maya Angelou. And I love that from Maya because it's so true. When we think about virtues like compassion and kindness, and you know, they sound really fluffy and airy, but they're really hard virtues to practice. It's really hard to show compassion in a world that doesn't feel like it has much compassion in it. So courage is really required to cultivate these virtues. So let me just briefly talk about mindfulness, because mindfulness really is kind of our way of extending our meditation practice into our daily life. And we do that in a few ways, one of which is being fully present in the moment. If you've read books from Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, there's a mighty power in being present in the moment, not being worried about the past or projecting into the future. And mindfulness is the same way. It's really connecting our breath and our body to being fully present in each moment, whether we're at work or whether we're with our families. If we're planning for the future, then let's be present in that planning, right? It doesn't mean we don't think about the past or future, but it means that we're present in what we are engaged with. And those virtues of non-judgment and compassion for our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, that's such a critical component to mindfulness, for ourselves, for others, for all life. To have this non-judgmental compassion is truly where the transformation lies. A quick science lesson for those that aren't familiar or need a refresher. So there's two different parts of the brain that give us different types of thinking. The cerebral cortex is the prefrontal lobe. It's where our abstract thinking, our problem solving, our memory, our language, our imagination, all of these amazing faculties that make humans so unique happen in the cerebral cortex. The feelings of compassion also arise there. The limbic system is what's called the lizard brain, or some would refer to as the monkey mind. It's the emotional center. It's the motivation and instinct center. It's also where reflective movement happens. So the limbic system, the amygdala, they're really great for running, fighting, or flighting with a threat, with a tiger, for example, right? They're not so good with other common day things, because it can be something like traffic or somebody's email that triggers our limbic system, and we start to go into that stress and into that panic. So mindfulness really is about trying to not so much control the elephant mind, the limbic system mind. It's more about the elephant rider, the prefrontal cortex, kind of directing the energies of the fight or flight part of the brain. And I love this metaphor because it's not about control. We're not going to control our senses. We're not going to control our fears. We're not going to put our fears in a box and pretend like they never existed. But rather we acknowledge them, we respect them, and we direct them. And so I just love that metaphor. There's also quite a bit of science, which I'll share some of these with you each session that we have, because there's just so much science now that proves the physical abilities, attributes from meditation mindfulness. So increased gray matter in auditory and sensory cortex. So your senses actually increase. Your hearing gets better. Your sight gets better because you're making these neural connections through this deep rested state. Increased gray matter in prefrontal cortex. So your reasoning, your memory, your focus areas. Older meditators have been seen to have the same amount of gray matter as younger people that are not meditating. So, and then also decreased amygdala, the fight or flight part, the elephant part of the brain, that actually gets smaller. So after 8 weeks of mindfulness-based stress reduction meditation, with 40 minutes a day, they found in a study conducted by Harvard neuroscientist Sarah Lazar that the amygdala actually shrinks. But you can accomplish this in as little as 10 minutes a day. So I just encourage you to, as we go through these sessions, to start thinking about your daily practice. And can you do, maybe you can't do 10 minutes a day, but can you do 1 minute a day? It helps to set a calendar reminder. It helps to have it at a time in which there's a transition, maybe in between your morning to going to work or your afternoon to going to dinner. It's preferable to meditate on a somewhat empty stomach, before drinking coffee or that kind of thing. But today we're going to practice a special technique called RAIN. It's a very powerful technique for handling and examining our emotions. First part is to recognize what is going on. And that's really just to kind of acknowledge the thoughts and feelings, behaviors that are coming up for us, that are maybe either conscious or subconscious, allowing those to come into our meditation. The second part is to allow that experience. So not to fight the emotions, not to try to fix the suffering, but really kind of just let it in. Um, and I love this metaphor of when we let the suffering in, it's not that it's not our suffering. It's more like we are this temple of consciousness, and the suffering, the fear, the anger, it's a visitor coming to visit us. And so we see that they're distraught and we want to hear them out, and so we invite them in for a cup of tea and we let them air their grievances. um, so allow the suffering into the meditation, and then we investigate, and we do this with loving curiosity, without judgment. We feel where the suffering is in our bodies, and then through that investigation, we ultimately want to nurture with self-compassion, and we do that. We lovingly embrace our suffering, and ultimately, in a process of non-identifying with it. For so many of us, our suffering, our fears, our doubts, our worries are often associated with our identity. And so this practice is asking us to non-identify with that suffering, and see that, yes, this may be my experience, but it's not me at my core. So I hope that gives you a few things to think about. So I'd like at this time to lead us into a meditation. So if you haven't done so already, please get a nice, comfortable chair, preferably with your back straight, if at all possible. Just nice and relaxed. And I'm gonna play a little background music for us. Just give me one moment, please. All right. So as we settle in to our meditation, let's take a few deep breaths in. A nice deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. And the breath is really our safe place, our point of focus. If at all you feel overwhelmed, please come back to the breath as your point, your anchor. So at this time, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in our own minds and hearts. And I'd like you to just recognize what's going on for you right now. What thoughts, feelings, fears are coming up for you right now? Maybe it's from recent events, maybe it's from past events. It's preferable not to go deep into a traumatic event, but perhaps something a little bit more milder. But just kind of allow that emotion, that fear, doubt, worry, allow that emotion to come in to your awareness without judgment, without trying to fix it. It's okay to just bring this loving presence to our emotions, They need our attention. And we investigate with this loving compassion. We maybe wonder the source of this suffering without assigning blame. How is this suffering making you feel? Where do you feel it in your body? Is it in your neck, in your head, your heart, your belly? Connect to that place inside yourself where you feel this fear, doubt, worry. And know that it's okay. We're all human. We all have these emotions, and it's okay. It's okay, fear. Hello, old friend. So nice to see you. I know you have some things to tell me. What do you have to teach me today? I'm here to listen. And with this all loving compassion, there is a deep well of compassion inside our hearts. There is a nurturing presence, a motherly embrace. And she is wrapping her arms with compassion around our suffering, around our fear. If you feel a part of your body that's speaking to you, you can put a hand there. Whether it's your heart, your head, your belly, put a hand of loving compassion to wherever you may be feeling that pain. This is your time to nurture yourself. You are so worth it. You are full of light and love, and you have a capacity of compassion that is so great. Deeper still, we move to the depths of this all-loving, unconditional compassion. We move to the depths, like the depths of the sea. The surface of our mind now, long ago, we move into this depth of all-loving embrace. Because in this space, we are free. In this moment, you are free. This light, this unconditional love is available for all of us if we just tune in. If we can just quiet the mind and allow our hearts to speak. Our hearts are here to nurture us. These wounds, this suffering is not in our heart. Though it may be covering our heart the way the clay covers the gold Buddha. Upon further reflection, the mud and dross of our suffering is wiped away, and the gold of our true compassion is revealed. We're safe in this space. We no longer need to identify with this suffering. In this space, we are free. As you inhale the sweet oxygen, this life force, bring attention to your breath. This is your anchor to the present moment. Your breath is your key to this sacred place of loving compassion. And as we continue on our journey, may we always remember this place of safety, of love for ourselves, this sanctuary of compassion. May we remember with every breath, come back to our anchor. Hey friends, Dustin here. If you enjoyed that session, go in the description below and click the sign up link to get on my mailing list for future sessions like this, the first and third Wednesday of every month. I hope to see you there. Click the register so that I can email you the Zoom info to join these sessions in real time. Thank you so much.